Most of you may know me for my art journey and everything I share about watercolor and painting. But there's some other things that I really want to get out there into the universe and just maybe it'll help somebody because I would have wanted someone to tell me about this if I didn't know about it. And that's how I've been able to triple my net worth in the last 8 years. My son is 8, by the way. So that gives you a little clue how busy I've been with my son, having my son, being a stay-at-home mom, starting a YouTube channel, starting an online business, growing that. I've been really busy. And none of the things that I've put my energy into is making me huge money. My online watercolor tutorials do earn me finally a decent enough amount income so that if anything ever happened to my husband and I needed to pay the rent, I could do it. And I'm just very privileged to be able to stay home and not worry about making enough money day to day to cover my day-to-day expenses. So I'm very fortunate in that fact, and I'm very lucky to be in a situation where I have been able to have the freedom to build this YouTube channel, focus on that, focus on my son, and not too much else has been my focus, including growing my money. That's not what I would ever have had time to do, but I have. And some of it's luck because sometimes the stock market goes up and sometimes the stock market goes down. And this is going to be a story about my journey with investing in the stock market and how I've tripled my income, or tripled, not my income. That's very different. Income money is very different than money that you have, but you can't touch it. So, but that is what you build your nest egg. So if someday you or your children, or, you want to retire and travel, or you want to kind of slow down, which I definitely want to slow down. I am 50. This year I turned 50 and I'm looking down the road 10 years from now. And am I always going to want to just grind and hustle like what I've had to do to build my YouTube channel, my watercolor online tutorial business to the level I have? No, I'm not going to have the energy. And plus, it's not good for my health because in my situation, what I have to do is do a watercolor painting, create a tutorial. And the funny thing is the painting takes an hour, but the editing will take 6 hours. So it's a lot of sitting, and I'm not investing in my health. I've invested in my financial side. It hasn't felt like I've done much, but apparently I have, because I just looked at my stocks and my investments, and it's tripled since I've had my son. And that's just crazy to me. And I never would have thought that possible. And some of it is just choosing good stocks and good investments. But it is some discipline and also trust the system. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey in investing and how I think everyone, I don't care how much money you make. I was making more money way back in the day. I was waitressing. And when the internet boom was happening, I was riding that wave. I was making more money on the stock market than I was as a waitress in my 20s. And that's just me not even having YouTube gurus telling me what to do. That's just, I knew my dad dabbled in the stock market. It kind of fascinated me that you could put money into the stock market and it would grow without you doing any further work other than a touch of a button of investing. So I want to kind of tell you about that journey and encourage you very strongly to at least dabble. And I always looked at my investing as dabbling. I never thought that it would grow to this point. I never did. And I'll tell you the whole story. I'm not going to tell you exact dollar amounts because it's not the point. But if I could do it on a social worker's salary, a stay-at-home mom's salary, an artist salary, and grow my money to the point where they recommend, which I recently heard that by the time you're 50, you should have 6 times your yearly income saved. And I remember looking at that just a few years ago and being like, not going to make that one, not going to do it. But now that, and with the help of a good, strong stock market, I have reached that goal. It's not a huge ton amount of money, but I've reached it. So let's back up to where my adventure with investing and how you can also do this. And it all began as a hobby. as a waitress, and I've always been one to save money. I'm the least of the savers in my family, though. I spend more money than anyone else in my family, but still, I do save my money. I don't have a big wardrobe. I don't travel a lot. Back in the day when everyone had this many CDs of music, I had maybe 3. I just never spent a lot of money on as much as other people I see spending their money. I would save it. And so I started out my investing journey with maybe $1,000 and put it into some tech stocks. And then back then the internet was taking off, and it was the early 2000s. And I don't mind saying it now, I probably invested a total of $5,000. And with very little experience and just being a simple 20-year-old waitress going to school, turned that into $20,000, which to me was a really big deal. And so that always stuck in the back of my head. And I've always put a little bit of play money, just $1,000. If I have $1,000 laying around, I put it in. And I usually do because I don't like to live paycheck to paycheck. So I always live well beneath my means. I live in a much simpler house than other people that are in my salary or my family's salary bracket, I should say. And I've always lived simply. When I first bought my first house in my 30s, it was just a little tiny townhouse, nothing fancy. And so I worked in the school system as a school social worker. I had a master's. And so I made through my 30s and early 40s, I made below 40,000. So I've never made a lot of money. And then with my art, I probably made another, 20,000 a year with my art, selling art online and doing different things online over the years for the last 20 years. So that's helped me. So it has been good to have a hobby that I can make some income with. And I just sock money away. And sometimes it feels like I'm not saving anything, but apparently I was, because all of a sudden I have a nice little nest egg that I wasn't expecting. And so fast forward to when I had my son. In those early years, I put a few $1,000s here and there in Google, Facebook, Amazon, the big ones. I learned the first time around investing in the stock market not to play cowboy in Wild Wild West and just invest in these tiny little companies that everyone was saying would just, if they blew up, they were going to blow up big. And yes, that sometimes happens, but it's really a crapshoot. So my investment strategy in my 30s and 40s has been to just put a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, and the big boys that I really think it would be a crazy upside down world if they failed, like Amazon or Google. Google, which, Google owns YouTube. So I get Google. I understand Google. I also wanted to invest in the artificial intelligence realm, and I knew Google was doing a lot with that. So that was just my thinking with that. But whatever you decide to invest in something you know is solid with your money. And then don't look at it for years. I look at my investments once a year and see how they're doing. And then don't buy and sell, buy and sell, buy and sell. If you do that, you can make a lot of money, but you have to spend a lot of time researching and understanding what the heck you're doing. It's not the way to go if you just want to throw your money in a nice stock and then not think about it. So that's what I've done. And certainly your money will go up and down over the years. But if you invest your money in the stock market and just let it sit for, say, 10 years, it will grow if you choose good companies. And it's really easy to do. You can do it all online. So if you're interested in learning more about how I did that and the nuts and bolts of navigating, say, the Schwab.com website and investing through them, definitely let me know in the comments. I could do a screenshot of how you actually invest and research stocks a little bit, at least. I didn't do a lot of research this second round. I just went with companies I knew were really strong and healthy, like Apple and Amazon and Google were my main ones I invest in. And you do want to diversify some, but I am mostly stock. So that's not the best advice. So it's better to diversify for sure. But that's what I've done. And just since I had my son, my investments, say I started with 10,000, now I have 30,000 in the course of 8 years, is kind of crazy. So the other big investment vehicle that I used was a Vanguard retirement fund. So when I quit my state job that had, all the benefits and all the bells and whistles of working for the government and the school system, I rolled over my retirement account into a Vanguard fund on the advice of my brother, who lives in the Bay Area, and he has a big network of people that are very sophisticated and know a lot about money. And so I just took his advice and did what he was doing and put my money in a Vanguard account where you don't have someone that you go and get advice from. I would recommend that you don't do that. You don't go to, say, a big bank and where they advise you to invest in their retirement plans, because they get a big, huge commission and that takes a big chunk out of your money that comes to you. I would say do it independently. That's how I did it. Vanguard doesn't take hardly any cut from the money that you make in your retirement fund if you invest with Vanguard. And so Vanguard's not paying me for this. It's very simple and you can do it all online without the help of investment planner. I wouldn't do that just because I'm cheap and I want to keep all my money. I don't want to give a commission to anybody. So that's how I've done it. And that has also done very well. That's the other part of the puzzle of why my investments have tripled, because those Vanguard funds are really good. So if you want to know the exact one I'm in, just leave me a comment and I'll be glad to tell you which exact fund I'm in. And if you want to know how to invest in that, I'd be glad to tell you. I am an artist and a social worker by training. I am not a financial advisor. I'm just telling you what has worked for me and to encourage you to be smart with your money. And even if you start really small, just start with something. Even if you're older, in your 60s, 70s, 80s, it's never too late to invest a little bit of money and just see what happens. Because if you don't invest that money, nothing's going to happen with your money. It's just not going to grow. And, there's other ways to make money. Of course, my father, he does a lot of buying houses and renting them out. But that's a lot of work. I don't want to do a lot of work. I just want to put my money in an investment and let it quietly grow over the years. That's how I like to make money, because I have lots of other things to do. So anyway, that's what's worked for me. And it's been very effective. And I didn't know that it was going to be that effective until I got to this place in my life. So I really hope that this will encourage you to at least look into putting, even if it's $500, even if it's $200, you can set up an automatic transfer where like Schwab.com will take $200 out of your bank account every month and put it in your Schwab account. And then when you have $1,000 saved up, you can go onto Schwab.com and invest it into something that you feel is a really smart investment, and then just leave it alone for years. That's been my formula. And it's worked for me. So it might not work for you. I'm just saying what's worked for me. So anyway, I hope that has helped somebody out there. It has definitely been amazing for me. And I'm so glad that I made those choices when I was younger, because it's been great. So anyway, I hope that helps. By the way, have you ever tried limoncello LaCroix? A lot of the LaCroix flavors, not so great. This one, pretty great. And until next time, go live your life beautifully. Bye, everybody.